Have you ever wondered if the mannequins in your local department store are more alive than they seem? There's something inherently eerie about mannequins, isn't there? Their uncanny resemblance to us, the way they mimic our form, standing silently, observing the world with their blank, lifeless eyes. They're almost like silent spectators in the grand theater of life, aren't they? Let's shift our gaze to our protagonist, a young man working the graveyard shift at a sprawling department store. Picture the scene. The store is a ghost town, lights dimmed, and the only company he has are the mannequins. As the clock ticks away, he begins to notice something unnerving. Mannequins, they appear in places they weren't before. A pair of plastic eyes staring at him from the end of an aisle, a hand reaching out from the shadows where there was none. Something about the mannequins seemed off to him, but he brushed it off as a product of his overactive imagination. But was it really just his imagination? One night, our protagonist decided to investigate the odd occurrences, and what he found was truly unsettling. Driven by a sense of curiosity that was stronger than his fear, he decided to explore the store after hours. The mannequins, usually silent observers, seemed to be out of place. Some were in corners where they had no business being, others in poses that seemed almost lifelike. A soft whispering sound tickled his ears, a noise that seemed out of place in the lifeless store. It was as if the walls themselves were breathing, whispering secrets that only the mannequins were privy to. In pursuit of the strange sounds, our protagonist stumbled upon a hidden closet, a secret haven for old discarded mannequins. These were not the glossy, stylish mannequins displayed in the store, but old, worn-out figures, each with a story etched on their lifeless faces. In the dim light of the closet, the mannequins seemed to stare back at him with lifeless eyes. Little did our protagonist know, opening that closet would unleash a horror he could never have imagined. From the moment he turned that handle, his world began to twist into a ghastly nightmare. Those silent, lifeless mannequins, once merely eerie observers, transformed into active participants in the terror. Every time he'd glance away, then back, he would find them closer. An inch, a foot, a yard. Their relentless, silent encroachment was like a slow-motion chase scene from the darkest corners of his mind. Each mannequin seemed to move of its own accord, their lifeless eyes tracking his every movement, their painted smiles a mockery of his growing fear. And then the whispers, soft at first, like a breeze through a graveyard, but growing, always growing, into a chilling symphony of voices, hissing threats and promises of doom. The presence around him was palpable now, a cold, creeping dread that clung to his skin. He was no longer alone in the store, the mannequins were watching. As the sun began to rise, the protagonist found himself trapped in a nightmare he couldn't escape. His heartbeat pounding in his ears, he lunged for the store doors only to find them locked. A chill crept up his spine as he realized his grim predicament. The mannequins, once just lifeless figures, now seemed to be closing in on him, their glassy eyes tracking his every move. The air grew colder, the silence heavier. He could almost sense their anticipation, their eagerness. Then he felt a cold touch on his shoulder. Heart in his throat, he turned around to face a mannequin up close. Its eyes, vacant yet somehow alive, stared back at him. The painted smile on its face seemed to twist into a sinister grin. As the mannequin's face inched closer to his, the store lights flickered and went out. The eerie silence was deafening. What do you think happened next?